At 23 years old, she was young, healthy, and sexy with that American, Californian style that made eyes turn and hypothalamuses awaken.
I don't even own a television. Coma.
2, 1, 2, 3.
There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. 'Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
All right, welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books. My name is J.W.Y. Incision Friedman.
Whoa. And bringing you the hot takes and cool vibes that will definitely awaken your hypothalami. I'm Chris Collision.
And this time around, we're talking about a book that is... let me get prepared for this. Robin Cook's Coma. I know, it's serious. I know it's really serious. Anyway.
Holy shit. All right, that's it, folks. That's the show. It's all downhill from here. I see no reason to continue.
I may or may not had to listen to that song like 30 seconds before we started because apparently Morrissey's melodies go in one ear and right out the other for me.
Oh my God. But I mean, having scaled Kilimanjaro, I personally see no need to summit Potrero Hill. So we're out.
Yeah, if we were located anywhere near there, of course.
Hey, I have no idea why that's on my mind. Before we jump in, we were scheduled to record today with our friend Tim Faust, who you probably know from the internet, from fighting for healthcare for all, and possibly for joining us to talk about some book about ram men a couple years back.
And a Rush album.
Yeah, and we were turbo stoked about it. Tim had a little health setback and had to cancel his tour, so he couldn't be with us today. So a little bit of a change of plans, but get well, Tim. We're pulling for you.
Yeah, sending good vibes your way. Hope you're doing better soon, fella. And we'll try to do you justice here.
Yeah,
talking about Robin Cook's Coma.
We're sending this one out to you. We're so sorry.
Yeah, seriously. I was like, this is the worst dedication ever. This is like calling the radio station and being like, I have a song for my girlfriend. Do you have anything by Butt Trumpet? Look them up, folks. They were real.
I was about to ask you if that was real.
Oh yeah, they were real.
There's a band out there called Finger 11.
Oh, yeah. I figured out what that name meant about 10 years ago, and just my mind just went, ugh.
I still haven't figured it out, so I look forward to that awakening. I've always thought that it's kind of a really gross sentence.
It means your dick.
This is me not believing that.
Okay.
I mean, you're probably right, but I want to live in a different world, Jay. I'm trying to create my own reality. But if you think Finger 11 is a mediocre name, you need to meet even one Canadian, because every Canadian knows that Finger 11 was originally called Rainbow Butt Monkeys.
Oh, my dear Lord.
So it's the rare, terrible band name that actually is a substantial step up from their original band name.
Butt Monkeys, huh? That's
Rainbow Butt Monkeys.
It's like some Beavis and Butthead insult caliber band naming there.
Terrifically so. And like, I don't know, I've never heard them say it. I say Rainbow Butt Monkeys, but it might be Rainbow Butt Monkeys.
That's true.
Right?
You don't know whether it's the butt that has a rainbow.
Exactly.
Or perhaps the butt has a monkey. Yeah, who knows?
Anyway.
Oh boy, we are not talking about the book.
Is this our earliest ever digression?
No.
Maybe.
We've done this several times when we didn't want to talk about the thing we're supposed to talk about. So I think we're staying true to form.
All right.
So this is, I'd say this is kind of a halcyon. Is that how you pronounce it? Now I have that whole Calliope syndrome thing stuck in my head.
You'll never free yourself from it either. Every word starts to look wrong. I stared at the word equity for about 6 minutes today. Type out equity in all caps in like a bold font and just look at it at some point. It'll put the whammy on you.
Well, I'm going to pretend it's halcyon. I'm pretty sure it's halcyon.
I think it's halcyon.
But this is a halcyon work in the world of medical thrillers, which I believe not many people have written other than Robin Cook, but goddamn, he wrote a lot of them.
May have invented the medical thriller as a genre. We don't know.
At least as one with a name and a formula, I think he was definitely the progenitor. And I thought this was his first book. It turns out I was wrong.
Oh, it's his first successful book.
Yeah, because in 1973, which I believe was 4 years prior to this, he wrote a book which has the best name ever, The Year of the Intern.
Ooh.
Which is surprisingly not a porno, but a medical thriller.
Yeah, it wouldn't be The Year of the Intern if it were a porno.
That's true. The Rear.
Ooh, nice.
That's the XXX porno parody version.
So the back matter, I don't know, I assume you got the same copy I did. I got a digital copy through my local library. Kids, did you know you can get library books via ebook form through your library? It's true, and you should look up how to do it because I'm not going to explain it.
It's easy, and you don't have to pay a horrible company any money.
Yay! And the version I had this weird back matter in it with a fake interview prepared by his publicist, including slots for you to put in your name as the interviewer and the publication you represent.
And how many years ago? It said it was like released blank years ago in 1974 or whatever.
It's so good. Like, it's just a great view into how the sausage gets made. But in it, Mr. Cook is refreshingly candid. He's like, I really thought my first book was going to sell. It didn't. I got really mad about it. I sat down, I studied a bunch of bestsellers, and I said, by God, I'm going to do that. And then what he actually did is he didn't write this book. He wrote the screenplay to this book, sold it, and then wrote this book.
Hey, that's what happened with the Meg.
And I think what we're seeing here is a little self-novelization action. You can really kind of see that on the page. I did not know that until I'd finished it. But there are like 3 scenes in this that you're reading. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but there's like 3 scenes in this where you're reading it and you're like, this might make sense as a movie, but on the page, I have no idea what's going on.
It's paced like a movie for sure.
Yeah.
And not a good one. Spoiler.
Yikes. And guess who wrote and directed an adaptation of this?
You told me this before and I forgot. Was it Michael Crichton?
Friend of the show.
Yeah.
Michael Crichton.
Yeah, friend of the show, in quotes. Pirate Latitudes himself, Michael Crichton.
Timeline himself,
Yeah.
Michael Crichton. We'll forgive a lot because Jurassic Park changed all of our lives in 1993, but that was the movie, not the book, fucko. Michael Crichton.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I didn't see Jurassic Park until I was 30-something, and I have absolutely no fondness for that movie or series at all, which makes me, I guess, not a human being.
It makes you a human being. That's weird. I did not know. We didn't share that.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know
crazy.
what it was. Because I loved dinosaurs, too. And, it came out when I was, 14 or 15, I want to say. I should have been right there, but I just never saw it and just never really cared about it until I think it was not the most recent one, but the one before that came out. And I was like, I'll watch the others.
Right.
And, they just didn't really do it for me.
Well, the one before the most recent, which at recording time is, I think, Jurassic World. And then there was Jurassic World 2. Jurassic World was all-conqueringly bad and could taint anything.
Yeah. Unless you really like high heels.
The second one, though, is pretty great.
Okay.
And I mean, in a very dumb way. So maybe revisit it. But if you don't like Jurassic Park, that's your bag, bro. And that's totally cool with me.
Okay, so I'm not a garbage human who should die in a dumpster fire? Because that's what Twitter's told me.
You know, Twitter says a lot of things, and a few of them should be taken to heart, in my opinion.
Anyway, back to Coma by Robin Cook.
It's like when I express a negative opinion about a band. Should that be taken seriously? Jesus, God, no. And if you want proof, I'll hand you the keys to my YouTube search history.
I make fun of bands I have tattoos of, people. Don't get mad at me about that shit. That's part of being a music nerd, is making fun of everything.
But anyway, the point is, Jurassic Park important to me, maybe not important to you. This book may have given us, in some ways, a bigger, bolder Michael Crichton, because a lot of his books, I think, drew on this style after this book came out and was a giant mega hit. I also think it's got a lot of very technical shit in it.
Oh, God, does it.
So, hypothalamus descriptions and
This
the
book,
like.
at times, feels like it was written explicitly for medical students. And then Mr. Cook would remember, oh, crap, normal people are supposed to like this, too. I better throw in some James Bond shit.
Yeah. Or some boobs.
Yeah.
Which he also did plenty of. And I think that basically what I'm trying to do here, Jay, is I'm stretching and reaching, and I'm trying to blame Robin Cook for Tom Clancy as well.
I mean, it's a long walk, but I think you could get there.
Yes.
I mean, this is, in a lot of ways, very much a product of its time, in many ways that are good, many ways that are bad. But I think all in all, you do see kind of a nascent seed of a lot of what will be to come in the thriller subgenre of writing, for sure. Because this book, you can't really accuse it of playing into tropes, because a lot of those tropes didn't exist yet. But, oh man, it will feel familiar to you if you read this.
Wait a sec. So you're saying I can't accuse this of playing into tropes?
Oh, you can.
I'm going to have to put some big X's through several pages in my notebook. Can I accuse it of sucking bottom?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, thank God.
Because that much is definitely true. And it definitely, it pulls from the playbook of several popular authors that came before. I would say, as I mentioned, one Ian Fleming, perhaps. There's a lot of, kind of subterfuge spy type action going on. It definitely, there's some Jean Le Carré as well.
Fuck, I wish.
Some trying very hard.
What kind of typewriter did Fleming type on? It was a gold typewriter?
Yeah, he had a special gold typewriter made for himself.
So I'm guessing Robin Cook's typewriter was wearing scrubs.
Yeah, I was going to say it pulsed like a heart, but he had H.R. Giger make it especially for him, like the Korn fucking mic stand.
You have to... Okay, first off, I really love that your go-to reference for Giger is Jonathan Davis from Korn's
Well, I'm just
mic
talking
stand.
about, commissioned works
Sure.
for daily use.
I was going to say, you've got to wash and walk with your hands, backs out, palms to you at face level to approach the typewriter to begin work at the morning.
I just can't get over the Giger thing. You're right, actually. That is kind of a weird go-to. Most people would probably say something about aliens. But not me. For me, it's Korn with the backwards R. Got that life. But yeah, I do imagine that Robin Cook wore a surgical mask while typing most of this, for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess we should tell the people what the book is about, since we've spent 12, 13 minutes avoiding doing exactly that. So here's a little segment we like to call Plot in 60 Seconds.
Nobody knows if you finish or not. You got 60 seconds to give them the plot. Plot in 60 seconds.
All right, so Dr. Collision, telephone, please.
Yeah,
Dr.
Doc?
Davis, Dr. Davis, Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Blair Hamilton. If you watch any TV show from the 1980s that has a hospital scene, listen for these exact words in the background, because you'll hear them. There must have been like only one stock hospital audio, but you'll hear, Dr. Davis, telephone, please. Dr. Davis, telephone, please. Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Blair Hamilton. And I only noticed.
I did not know that.
I only know this because it's on a Queensryche album. And so the first time I heard it on TV, I was like, why is there Queensryche in the background?
A very good question.
And then I started hearing it in all of the shows.
In fact, a reasonable question that I find myself asking anytime I hear Queensryche is, why is there Queensryche play?
Whereas anytime I'm watching anything, I'm like, why isn't there Queensryche playing? You know what would make this scene better? Jet City Woman. Anyway, Collision.
How about a thoughtfully presented sci-fi dystopia with hooks?
Yeah. There is a revolution calling you, and that revolution is 60 seconds to describe this book to our listeners. Are you prepared?
My body is ready.
Go.
Sexy young third-year medical student Susan Wheeler is starting her training shifts at a local Boston hospital under the tutelage of handsome, swinging 70s Dr. Mark Bellows, who notices right away that she's sexy. But that don't concern him. No, what he cares about is, will her damned girl feelings get in the way of her doctoring? Signs point to yes, since on her first day she encounters a young woman just exactly her age who had periods, just like she does, who'd come in for minor surgery and is now in a titular coma. Then she has a meet-cute with a sexy young architect who's in for minor surgery and notices right away that she's sexy. And then he slips into a titular coma.
I know, it's serious.
Susan starts investigating. She discovers a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top of the hospital, whose leaders are drugging people into brain death to sell their organs for transplant. They get her and are wheeling her into the OR to induce brain death. But Bellows calls the cops even though she was mean to him earlier that day. And the cops burst in and save her, and everything's gonna be okay.
And the book ends in the most unsatisfying way possible.
I've said this before, I have to say it again, the book doesn't end so much as it stops.
It's true, it's like literally, there's not even like a little epilogue that says what happens. It's like, he's about to put her in a coma, and then it's like, he saw a bunch of people rush in. They were wearing police uniforms at the end.
But, I mean, that's from the point of view of the bad guy.
Yeah.
I actually kind of liked it. It was wrong-footing me in a not unpleasing way, because it left me to think, did they really root out the conspiracy, all the conspiracy, or is this still going on at dozens of hospitals across the land?
That's a good point. I liked it because it made the book end at 90%, so I still thought I was going to have to read more of this crap than I actually did.
Congrats for letting the people into the kitchen.
Yeah, because after that you get a list of the author's other works, which have some amazing titles, by the way.
A long ass interview.
And don't worry, those titles will come back into play in our second segment. But yeah, our long interview.
Nice. Yeah, all that stuff, and yeah, if
book discussion notes.
Yeah, book discussion
we should
notes.
be following those right now. Honestly, we're doing a horrible job.
I thought about it. Believe you me. No,
excuse me, Collision. Which character do you think changed the most over the course of Coma, and why?
That's a great question, Doc. I really appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I hadn't realized that the bulk of the characters were rather static, except, oddly, our protagonist, Susan Wheeler, doesn't change. No, it's Mark Bellows, the author a character who undergoes the most change. Why, he starts as a sexist pig, and then he nails a hot girl, and then he ends as a slightly less sexist pig.
I was going to say, and then he ends as a sexist pig who likes one woman. Because, yeah, you're right on point. That's the arc of Mr. Bellows, for sure.
Excuse me.
Doctor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so, speaking of books with substantial back matter that you're not expecting, and so the ebook ends before you want it to, or before you expected it to.
I was like, maybe before you wanted it to.
If there's ever a Jack Reacher book without a full chapter of the next book at the end, we will be so turbo fucked, because that will inevitably be the one we do, and we'll come in all cocky knowing like, this one's going to end at like 82%, and no, it's just going to keep going.
There's another 20 pages of diners. Oh, fuck, he's going to order coffee again.
He just beat up 4 dudes in an implausible middle-aged way.
Come here, Sonny. Pow. With his giant chicken-sized fists.
Let me hit you with 2 things. My fists and the knowledge of how to rebuild a carburetor. The guy's like, most cars don't have fuel injection.
Shut up, Pam.
My knowledge is still relevant.
I don't drive. I only take trains. Jack Reacher doesn't drive.
It doesn't mean he doesn't know how to rebuild a carburetor.
I'm sure he knows how to rebuild a carburetor. I mean, if it's manly, Jack Reacher does it. Yeah, so I had a really hard time with this book.
You did?
I did. I'm very squeamish. I don't even like going to the doctor. It scares me. I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, I would say. I can't look when I'm getting blood drawn or I pass out.
Okay, nobody can look while they have blood drawn. I have learned that lesson. When I go to the phlebotomist, and it's not often, but it happens, I'm always like, I know the way I look. I know the way I present. And I just always tell him, like, I'm just going to look away now. You tell me what to do and I'll do it, but I am not looking at that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I dated a phlebotomist for several years in my 20s. That was her job. And
did she bring her work home with her?
she practiced on me several times.
Nope.
Because, I guess getting a needle in a real vein is a lot harder than, just reading instructions. And I can't say that maybe didn't contribute to my aversion to doctors and the doctorly arts. But, my God, amateur phlebotomist, not amateur, let's say a student phlebotomist, they lack the confident touch you get when you go to the doctor, for sure. And it was because I have, quote unquote, good veins, as she told me many times, which is a very creepy thing to hear from your significant other.
I've been told that by phlebotomists as well. I think it's just because, unlike you, I have very, very pale skin, so it's kind of easy to see through to the veins.
I have like wiry fingers, I think, or wiry. The top of my hands are very like veiny, and I think it's from like playing guitar and piano and stuff.
Well, of course, I have very prominent veins because not only do I always observe arm day, but I'm juicing heavily.
It's all the clanging and banging, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my veins, they stick out real hard because I, curl about 360 per arm.
Yeah. The other thing is, jumping back to your significant other wanting to practice drawing blood from you. You know that song by Mr. Loaf, I'll do a couple things for love, but I'll pass on that. That's a no for me, dog.
Yeah.
That's what that song's about.
I mean, I don't want to go off on a diatribe.
And if I have any part of that wrong, not at me.
I don't want to go on too long of a digression here, but God, I hate like stupid jokes that revolve around not being able to figure out what he won't do for love. He tells you in that song what he won't do for love.
Yeah, it's get a job.
No, every verse is a thing that he won't do for love. And then he says, I won't do that. So listen to the fucking lyrics before you make a dumb joke, guys.
No one has ever listened to a Jim Steinman verse lyric.
It's a good
And there's a good reason for that.
You win.
Our man Big Jim, good at a lot of things.
And I will say, even in, like, if you look up the Wikipedia for that song, Jim Steinman is quoted as saying, I guess it is a little confusing, but Meat really liked it, so he kept it the way it was. So
Meat really liked it.
Yeah, there you go. Mr. Loaf.
You know who looks at people as though they're meat? It's not just Jim Steinman. It's doctors and surgeons.
This was my hard...
So let's pull back into the...
to reel in the fish a little bit here and start over. I had a tough time with a lot of this book because, as you mentioned earlier, it's very... And this is not intended to be a pun. It's very clinical. Yep. Like, there's a lot of very matter-of-fact descriptions of scalpels making incisions and, sutures being applied and, organs being removed and just descriptions of what the inside of the body looks like. And I learned I can't read that stuff. I had to skip 3 or 4 pages at a time because my skin was crawling and it made me so uncomfortable. So I think I found my kryptonite. I could deal with Stephen King. I cannot deal with Robin Cook.
And that was super interesting to me because, as we often do, we're kind of texting back and forth as we're reading this. And you had mentioned that. And I was like, that's odd because to me, those sections came and went very, very quickly. But I guess it just shows you like... not that I needed the object lesson, but I guess I needed the object lesson that some things are more sensitive for people who aren't Chris Collision.
Yeah.
And it was a good reminder.
No, I mean, the inside of the human body is apparently something that I just don't want to think about. Like, I know when that museum exhibit was going around that had, like, the cross-section of a human being.
Oh, yeah, what's it?
It's like The Amazing Body or something like that. I don't remember, but either way, like, all my friends wanted to go see it, and I was like, nope, pass. I'm going to be here playing PlayStation. You guys have fun looking at guts. Because, I could not deal with that. And reading about it, oh boy, yeah, and reading about it while eating a steak, double oh boy. So
yeah, sorry, I had to look it up. It was called Body World, at least around here. And it's this crazy-ass doctor who developed this insane technology to present bodies in cross-section. It's called plastination, and it is creepy AF.
If you've ever seen the Jennifer Lopez movie, The Cell, the horse in that, it's that, but human beings. And apparently I can watch movies about this shit and it doesn't bother me. But I can't read about it. I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah, so bodies are gross. This we know, or at least they can be. And descriptions of them can be unsettling. I didn't find that so much with this, but we should probably throw it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it overshadowed the rest of the book to the point where I didn't even want to put it as one of my low points when we get to the segment because I'd just end up talking about it for 20 more minutes. But I had a really hard time with this. So folks at home,
if that's something you share.
Yeah, if you don't like to go to the doctor because you're scared they might put a needle in you, you do not want to read this book. You probably don't want to read this book anyway.
You probably don't want to read this book anyway.
Should we do?
Anybody wants to read this book, except maybe, as we might find, me.
Interesting teaser there. I think it's time we soar to the heights of our profession and then plummet back down to the ground. Let's do high points, low points.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
That's right, much like a fucked up Boeing jet.
Too soon.
I guess so.
People died, man.
Yeah, well, airline crashes, those don't bother me at all, but getting a tiny needle in my arm. Whoa.
Oh, man, I could just see an army of people preparing their yikes image macros for us. It'll be everything from that's a yikes from me dog, a medical certificate, like a prescription pad issuing one big yikes.
People are just going to email me photos of kidneys or something, I know.
Ew.
Anyway, sorry
Put
about that.
That back. Shouldn't be out.
This is a part of the show where we talk about our favorite and our least favorite parts of the book, and we do it in the old compliment sandwich. So, Collision, would you like to start us off with a high point about Robin Cook's Coma? I know, it's serious. I'm not going to stop making that joke. I was so proud of myself.
You shouldn't stop, and you should be proud.
I was actually really worried, especially back when I thought this was going to be a 3-person recording. I thought we were all going to be fighting with each other to get to that joke, and I'd have to call dibs on it. So I was really happy to get that one off. I got my shit in, folks.
I wish I had gotten it. I'm not going to lie. I wish I'd gotten it. I wish I'd gotten there first. I mean, obviously, I got it when you did it. I just mean I wish I'd thought of it.
I was like, man, damning with faint praise. Like, that was a great joke. I wish I understood it.
Yeah, no response to a joke quite as great as the old solemn nod. That's really funny, actually.
Yeah, that's what happens to me on dates.
Oh.
You're funny. And blank stare. Okay, high points.
So a high point for me is that this book is so 70s. There is a date they go on in Mark's bachelor pad, and it's basically a proto loft where there's no real furniture. It's all beanbags and a table you sit at with no chairs because it's super low, and he's drinking Bordeaux, so he's a fancy man.
And how is the food prepared?
He prepares the food. This screamed my childhood to me. He of course has an apartment, but he grills them some steaks on a hibachi that's just out on the fire escape. And so he's like grilling and flipping steaks through the window.
And he shuts the window in between, which just struck me as incredibly irresponsible.
He just doesn't want that smoke coming in, you know?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I assume.
Just let your upstairs neighbors get it all, or...
Yeah.
Oh, no, he lives on the top floor. I forgot they made a point of mentioning that.
But yeah, and is that the only time penthouse is mentioned? No, it is not.
No, but it is one of the only times a penthouse is mentioned without the descriptor stained, which made me very uncomfortable.
Or the word magazine right after it.
No, literally, stained penthouse magazine is a mental image I did not need to have.
I'm sure it meant a coffee stain.
Probably.
Why? Because it's in an employee break room. And that's sort of the dark side of the 70s.
Yeah. Plus, I mean...
that is sexual fucking harassment, my folks.
Yeah, but I mean, not when there's no women around because this is a man's job.
Fuck off and leave that at home.
Yeah, seriously. Still, keep your porno at home, guys. Thanks.
If you can do nothing else. If you can do nothing else.
Leave your porno at home, god damn it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's an extremely 70s thing. Shag carpets, wall to wall, chrome, white tile everywhere. Extremely 70s ways of talking to each other. Everybody's in therapy and drops the most recent therapy jargon into every conversation. And just in general, I don't know why, I really love that.
I wanted to read just a brief piece here that describes the decor of Susan's bedroom, which is also kind of what you were talking about. Susan put her feet onto the floor and sat on the edge of the bed. The floor was cold and uninviting. Her hair descended from her hair. Pardon me. She kicked the leg out of her leg. Her hair descended from her head haphazardly, leaving only a 2 or 3 inch gap through which to regard her room. It wasn't much of a room, about 12 by 14 feet, with 2 multi-paned windows in the end. The windows gave out onto another brick building in a parking lot, so Susan rarely looked out. The paint was reasonably fresh because she had painted the room herself 2 years previously. The color was a pleasing pastel yellow, which accented perfectly the Marimekko Printex fabric she had used to make the curtains. Their colors were several shades of electric green, separated by dark blue. On the walls hung a variety of colorful posters, framed with stainless steel, advertising past cultural events. The furniture was medical school issue.
I mean, if there's anything I like to look at, it's a poster of a past medical event, or a past cultural event. I think if there's anything Jay and I do not want to look at, it's a poster of a past medical event.
Yeah, no, that's very true. But I love posters of past cultural events. Like, that feels like something that should have been maybe fleshed out in the editing stage.
You could probably have just said a recent Shakespeare festival, and everybody would have been fine with it.
Or just posters. That would have worked too.
No, because then I'm like, heading straight to the, I don't know, is there some kind of IMDb for books? Anyway, we'll fix that in post, but IMDb for books, goofs. Posters usually have a topic and a style, and this author lazily forgot to include any description of same.
I give your comment 5 stars and add my own. Yes. Mr. Cook obviously forgot that hanging posters was not a rage until the early 1980s with the advent of the Lamborghini and Ferrari poster.
Right. Anyway, tune in next 2 weeks from now to find more great impressions of the goofs section from IMDb, where levels of pedantry even we can't imagine are realized every single day.
And where people take jokes incredibly seriously and then rate them up as some kind of factual omission.
I'm not going to look it up today, but I'm pretty sure that the Time Machine probably has a goof. Actually, in physics as currently conceived, time travel described in this way is literally impossible.
Yeah. When you're moving through time, actually, all that can move through time is not matter, according to any popular theory of time travel. All that could be moved is energy. So, while it might be possible to implant your memories into an earlier version of yourself, it would be impossible to transport your entire person from this time to a time anywhere else in chronological future or past. Thank you. My name is Dicklord421. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Dicklord. Thanks, bud.
No problem.
Speaking of low points,
I don't think I've given my high point yet.
I thought you had. Oh, dear God.
My high point was everything on the internet, especially with a comment section. No, my high point is that the actual evil plan, which we mentioned earlier, which is putting people into comas and then harvesting their organs for black market trading, was pretty fucking horrifying. And it worked for me, maybe because I have the aforementioned fear of doctoral malpractice and just doctors in general and stuff. But it struck me as being intensely scary. Right. And I was like, man, that's really fucked up. And it's pretty rare for a thriller these days, I feel like, to actually get me that way and not just make me roll my eyes like, Of course, it was something stupid like that. It's like when they actually revealed it, I was like, oh, God, that's fucked up. So that was a high point for me.
It's also extremely contemporary in a way for that to be a low point, because the whole premise of this book is this horrified, oh my God, what if medical decisions were made, dum dum dum, for the sake of profit?
Yeah, I know, right? There's a couple conversations in this that made me very sad for how far we've come, quote unquote, in 40 years.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we should note that the book is not explicitly just about that. The bad guys aren't just trying to make money. They're also evil eugenicist types who are very explicitly angry that, quote, the laws are lagging behind the innovation, unquote. And this is a position that, unless I miss my guess, Mr. Cook very much shares.
yes.
You know, he's very much the kind of person who's like, how could you possibly preemptively rule out something that hasn't been done yet? Which is the kind of thing that probably sounds really smart if you're a sophomore in college.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you're definitely right to ascribe some of the motivations to Cook himself, for sure. Because as I read just briefly, these are topics he touches on in most of his, I'd say, 700 plus novels. So,
No, you exaggerate.
yeah, it's more like
It's
70.
650.
Yeah. I bid $1. I was going to say Pat, and then I was like, Pat Sajak, never hosted.
Right.
I was thinking of Bob Barker, and it's not him anymore. Anyway, it's fucking Drew Carey. That's so weird. Does Drew Carey use the little microphone?
These are questions I cannot answer for you, because the cult of The Price is Right is one that I was never admitted to.
See, I used to watch
And
it.
that's a me statement, not a statement about the show.
Well, now we're even. We both have cultural touchstones from our youth that we missed out on. Because when
Totes.
I'd stay home sick from school, I was a Price is Right kid through and through.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
$1. Always bid $1. Unless you want to be a real jerk, then you just bid $1 higher than the person who's gone the highest.
I mean, I don't like gaming the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that's kind of the problem with, not to go off on a rant here, but that's kind of the problem with us as the particular brand of quasi-clever monkey that we are. Excuse me, ape. Monkeys have tails.
Yes.
Is
Superman does good.
any system we can devise, we will instantly create a way to game it. And I dislike that about us and think we should stop.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, the real appeal of The Price is Right to me at age 6 or 7 was that giant fucking wheel that you spun, and it amazed me that little old ladies could get it to spin that fast until I got older and discovered the concept of ball bearings.
Ball bearings are fucking amazing. They're science's greatest novelty, if you ask me.
Pretty cool stuff. Anyway.
Springs? How the fuck do they work?
That's a lot more complicated than an inclined plane, let me tell you.
Anyway, this is a new low point for the show, and speaking of low points...
Simple machines. Speaking of low points, it's your turn.
It's time to pulley ourselves up by our bootstraps and do a low point.
Or we could belay our way down from the heights.
Belay that thought, Jay.
Much like a one-legged rock in Skyscraper.
That movie. I spent money to see it.
I saw it for free on TV. Let me tell you, I bet that movie was a lot better in the theater.
Oh, I didn't see it on the theater. I saw it the way it was meant to be seen.
You paid money to watch Skyscraper at home?
On an 11-inch laptop.
Oh my gosh. Show's over. I at least waited until it was free, dude.
Could have been better. I don't, Jay, I co-host a podcast about bad books.
That's true.
I don't specialize in good decisions.
I'm not mad at that movie either. I thought it was pretty entertaining.
I prefer the things it was throwing back to.
Yeah, definitely. Like Thunderball.
Towering Inferno.
Yeah, and Poseidon Adventure.
I genuinely think the Poseidon Adventure is a very moving movie. I am also not smart.
I did really like the fact that just brief digression here. If you haven't seen Skyscraper yet, look out for completely insubstantial spoilers. But I love the fact that a millionaire who is not an evil genius of any sort decided he was going to build a room in his skyscraper that inexplicably just has a ton of mirrors in it.
The mirror room.
Yeah, the mirror room, It's where you can walk in and get lost looking at lots of reflections of yourself.
Which doesn't work on any narrative sense. I'm actually going to change the low point I was going to give because that dovetails perfectly to mine.
Does it involve something like Chekhov's gun? Because that's what I was talking about.
Not exactly. But so we were talking earlier about how this book has so many signs in it that it was originally conceived as a screenplay. None is more clear, maybe, than an ancillary high point of this book is that a lot of the physical plants are described in really evocative detail. Like, you feel like you know what an operating room looks and feels and works like. You feel like you understand what their apartments are like in sometimes more detail than you're entirely comfortable with.
I definitely left this book with a good grasp of what an apartment is like.
Yeah. But there's also these rooms, and one in particular, when finally Susan talks her way into a tour of the evil facility where comatose patients are being warehoused and harvested for organs. And this whole scene is pretty gruesome.
It's very gruesome.
But she's made to cool her heels in what's described as, quote, an ultra-modern or hyper-modern, I can't remember the modifier, waiting room where two walls are mirrored, but those walls face each other, so she has to have the freak-out moment of reflecting into infinity. And the problem with that is, in a book that's been so careful to lay out the architecture to the point where crawl spaces are lovingly detailed, because she spends a lot of time in them.
She also spends a lot of time looking at floor plans and blueprints of said crawl spaces.
Exactly. This is a movie, or this is a book that really wants you to think about the fact that there are drop ceilings and that there are things over those drop ceilings. And there might be a third-year medical student scurrying around in them inexplicably in a nurse's uniform. Not because that's anybody's fetish or anything. I don't know who would say that. I'm not saying that. Who could possibly say that?
Certainly not a fiction writer with a doctorate who is a practicing physician.
Who could have written her to be wearing literally anything.
No, definitely not. I'm just glad it didn't get into her shoes at any point, because then I would have been really creeped out. Speaking of Jurassic Park, continue.
Anywho, that was Jurassic World.
All right.
Yeah, so for something that has been at pains to be architecturally both detailed and plausible, to have it go into a room whose sole purpose is to create one freaky visual, come on. It all sort of like, the house of cards comes a-crumbling down at that point.
I mean, I mentioned Bond several times now.
Who?
Bond.
Which Bond?
James Bond.
Oh, right.
You can't have a Bond knockoff without a room of mirrors. That kind of goes without saying.
That's a good point. And there is actually an explicit villain monologue. There's a villain internal monologue about a third of the way through the book. So yeah, the Bond pastiche is definitely real. But again, like, all tension fell away for me from that scene because the room was so ludicrous.
So I'm going to go with my bummer low point first, so that we don't have to end on a bummer. But as we mentioned earlier, this book is a product of its time. It's the 1970s in every way possible, and some of those ways are good, some of those ways are bad. One of the ways that's bad that really just struck out to me in this is the conflation of gender and biological sex. This book rides the binary so fucking hard, and in the year 2019, it's a little hard to read statements like, that conflate the concept of gender and sex, where it's like she was doing this as was the nature of her sex, or like, talking about, I don't have any other good examples, but there's just a lot of men be like this, women be like this, and these are the body parts they have. And that is a little difficult to read nowadays.
That was actually chapter 3.
Yeah, it was. But in a modern world, knowing what we know about the kind of non-binary nature of gender and the fluidity of individuality and how human beings are, it was a little weird to read something that is this fucking prescriptive about you're born with this part, you act this way. And that struck me as a major low point.
I think that's excruciatingly fair and brings me to my low point, which is not just that it is over-determined in terms of the social characteristics of gender, oblivious to the variety of biological sex as well.
That's a good point,
and the social components of that. But I want to talk about this book's sexism. And I want to do so by reading a longish passage. Susan broke it. Mark, I've been doing a bit of interesting reading here. Look at these figures. She stood up and leaned across the table, holding out the journal so that Bellows could see the page. As she did so, her blouse fell away from her chest. Bellows found himself staring down at her splendid breasts, barely contained by a sheer, flimsy bra, their skin of a smoothness Bellows imagined to be like velvet. He tried to concentrate on the page Susan was showing him, but his peripheral vision continued to record the insistent image of Susan's lovely torso. Self-consciously, Bellows scanned the library, certain that his preoccupation would be transparent to anyone in the room. Okay, so far, what we have is actually a very good depiction of the male gaze.
Yes.
And then this paragraph happens. Susan was oblivious to the mental havoc she was inadvertently causing.
Oh God, that's the Gary Puckett young girls phenomenon right there.
I just want to say, as a fella who has occasionally, possibly fallen victim to deploying the old male gaze.
As a dude who's been involved in a couple my eyes are up here situations.
It's not just the other people in the room who know what you're doing. It's the person you're doing it to who knows what you're doing. And so the book moves in that moment from a very, dare I say, to steal a word from you, clinical presentation of a sexist male gaze to unequivocal proof that the guy who wrote that clinical description, capital D, capital G, capital I, didn't get it.
Yeah, and I mean, beyond that, he also essentially accuses the woman and says it's her fault. She's unaware of the havoc she was causing by having breasts.
Yeah, so...
Which is what we're both fans of The Best Show. I'm sure we both heard the Sleaziest Rocker episode. For those who don't know at home, they determined that the sleaziest rock song ever recorded is Young Girl by Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, which I would suggest you do not listen to, but because it is a song about an underage girl who is wreaking havoc on his life by happening to be in his proximity and also attractive, and essentially repeatedly blames her for it.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. Yeah, total ew. And so, now whenever I read or hear things like that, I think of it as the Gary Puckett phenomenon, where it's like, oh, it's your fault you're so pretty and I can't concentrate.
So, the 70s giveth, but the 70s, they taketh away as well.
Well, since we're on this, I guess time to move to a last round of high points, right? Or no, I have another low point I need to do first. But put a pin in that. We're going to come back to it. Just my second low point is Mark Bellows, who is a fucking asshole and a dick. And
by the way, Mark Bellows, like Finger 11, it's a fucking sentence, bro. Think about it.
Whoa, Mark Bellows, my favorite lead vocalist of a new metal band.
That'd be pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it's like I knew a kid in high school named Ben Threat. That was his actual last name.
Whoa.
And somehow he was never in a punk band.
Was it 2 T's at the end?
Thrett. I was like, dude, how are you not the singer of a punk band? But no, he was just really good at math instead. Really nice guy, actually. Ben, if you're out there, let's start a band. It's not too late. Your name still rules.
We're just band threat and his band.
Maybe he went to school and became a doctor.
Dr. Threat.
Yeah, make do with what you got. Take what you can get. Make your appointments in advance to see Dr. Threat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Mark Bellows is a fucking dick. And Susan falls for him for no reason, despite him essentially negging her, as we would call it, treating her like an object, and then spending all of his time not around her thinking about, wow, she's really pretty, but she's a woman, and I'm a doctor, and I don't want anything to do with her because she might distract me from my work, unless, of course, she takes her work as seriously as I take mine, which is impossible because she's a woman, and women do not take things seriously.
Either way, sounds bad for my career.
But also, like...
Why are we talking like Bill Shatner?
I think I have a pretty good idea why, actually. But he basically, like, he talks like he's wearing an ascot at all times, like Fred from Scooby-Doo. And, like, he has just this 1950s, like, retrograde outlook on everything, which... even in a book written in the 70s about the 70s comes off as outdated. The fact that she falls for this jackass, I'm just like, wow, wish fulfillment much, Mr. Cook.
Well, remember that her so little bit of background for those of you who haven't read this, which I A, assume is everybody, and B, will hope to continue to be everybody.
I think you'd be surprised at how popular this book actually is. Because, I mean, as people who listen to the show know, I frequented used bookstores quite a bit as a kid, because the one near my house, you could trade in 2 used paperbacks and get 1 used paperback free. The Robin Cook section there was fucking huge, and it was always packed. So there were a lot of people reading those books and trading them in.
Right. So she's met a sexy young architect. She's got to go draw some blood.
Yeah, hopefully in a professional setting, and
but they're
not
kind
in
of
the kitchen of a shitty apartment in Orlando, Florida. Anyway, please continue.
You'd be surprised. But they're kind of bantering back and forth, and she confesses that she's really felt sexless the last couple of years, and she's really wishing she'd been a dancer, which is definitely a thing. There's definitely not more than one kind of that. And there's definitely not a lifetime of study and practice you have to do to become a good one.
No, of course not. You just have to be able to, be pretty and move.
Yeah, but she doesn't feel that. But Coma Boy, as I'll call him, because I can't remember his name.
It's Brennan. I remember because it's one of the only Jewish names in this book that isn't commented on explicitly. And the fact is, he was a Jewish man named blank.
Right.
Yeah.
Comments to her, no, you shouldn't feel like you've been neutered. You should feel like you're an all woman, because that's what I see in front of me. So that's what she sees.
That's what she said.
Yeah, after he opens that within her, so she's kind of blossoming, blooming, if you will. But then what happens? Motherfucker slips into a coma. She got to get it somewhere. And what I'm saying is, she does not hook up with Dr. Bellows. She settles for Dr.
That's true.
Bellows.
She does settle for Dr. Bellows, and they have a one-night stand, and that's kind of it now that I think about it.
That is 1,000% it. And at the very end of the book, there's literally Bellows reflecting, I saw her come into the hospital. She was obviously in disguise and covered in dried blood and therefore in great distress. But I don't know if I should help her, because she was rude to me the last time we interacted.
That's true.
Truly a red-pilled hero for our fucking times, Dr. Bellows.
Yeah, well, it is worth mentioning. I mean, she does ghost the fuck out of him now that I think about it, which is actually kind of rad because he deserves it.
Yeah, so, our hero, Mark Bellows, played by Jordan Peterson. The most 70s dipshit I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, the clothes that he wears here, he already kind of fits the role.
Slipping into a bad suit.
Yeah, with fucking elbow patches for no good reason.
Sounding like a Muppet, but dumb.
Talking about fucking lobsters and Nazis and shit.
Anywho, so I don't know. Is it? Are we done with low points, or can we bag on Mark Bellows the Munch for a while longer?
We're done with low points. We got one more set of high points. You first.
So there are only 2 possible high points for me to talk about, my friends, and one of them is that this book repeatedly made me think of possibly my favorite Guns N' Roses song, Coma.
Oh, now that's a deep cut. That's Use Your Illusion 2, right?
It was, but it really sounded more like it. No, it was Use Your Illusion 1, but it really sounded like it belonged on Use Your Illusion 2, if you know what I mean. I think they really just couldn't fit one more long song on 2, so they had to bump it to the more raucous, if you will.
The less experimental, emotional Use Your Illusion.
Exactly.
AKA the red one, as opposed to the blue one.
I think it was yellow.
I'm colorblind.
I can't even remember at this
I don't
point,
remember
honestly.
either. And honestly, they both sounded exactly the same to me.
Well, we're fighting again, kids.
One of the first times in my life I got into an actual fist fight was because I wrote record reviews for the junior high newspaper, and I wrote a bad review of Use Your Illusion 1 or 2. And the resident metalhead who's come up on this show several times before, Galen Bartelis, fucking met me at the bike rack and cold cocked me in the jaw and was like, "Fuck you for saying Guns N' Roses sucks."
And what did you learn that day?
Not to say Guns N' Roses sucks around fucking metalheads? I don't know.
Except apparently you didn't.
No, yeah, and 2 weeks later we were smoking cigarettes on the roof of the fucking Little Caesars again, so.
Because I'm sitting right here, bro.
Yeah.
Say
it again. Say Metallica sucks one more time.
By the way, just so I don't get outed by cooler people or made fun of by cooler people, Carcass lyrics. There. I made the reference. We can move on.
Okay.
Anyway, this is a, forgive me, but this was actually a high point when I read it that didn't make me think of Coma by Guns N' Roses. Instantly, the left hand of the intruder grabbed Susan by the throat, forcing her up to her full height against the wall, her naked breasts tensing. Her naked breasts tensing is the best four-word phrase I have ever read under any circumstance. And I have checked with at least one breasts haver about whether or not that's a thing she felt could happen. The answers are resolute and slightly...
Weirded out?
Yes, no. But I have not laughed harder at something I read than her naked breasts tensing.
For sale, baby breasts never tensed.
I mean...
Sorry, everyone.
Could it be more clear what's on the author's mind as he, and I repeat, he, is typing up literally any detail he could have chosen to mention about this scene?
I just keep thinking of the 40-year-old virgin, and, of course I felt them. They feel like bags of sand.
Bag of sand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I get that that's probably a long way to go to find out that the diner is closed, but that was a high point without parallel in recent times for this reader.
Well, now you're going to make my high point both look and sound incredibly stupid, but that's okay, because I'm 100% convinced that Robin Cook did not write this himself. Now,
what?
We mentioned the bad parts of the 70s. I was going to mention one of the good parts of the 70s, which is that this is a point in time when feminism was kind of coming to the forefront of culture in some ways. And there is a monologue here by Susan that I found surprisingly awesome. And also, given the rest of the book, I'm absolutely sure, I don't know if Dr. Cook were married, but if he were, I think his wife probably wrote this. If not, he probably read it from another better author's work and paraphrased it. But there's a section that says, despite the feminist movement, there still lingers the conventional image of wide-eyed feminine naivete and all that bullshit. As soon as you enter a field which demands a bit of competitive and aggressive action, the men all label you a castrating bitch. If you sit back and try to use passive compliant behavior, you find yourself being told that you can't respond to the competitive atmosphere, so you're forced to try to find your own compromise somewhere in the middle, which is difficult because all the while you feel like you're on trial, not as an individual, but as a representative of women in general. And this is something Susan says, and I read that and I was like, wow, this sounds a lot like what I hear from women now. It's really fucking relevant, and I was like, wow, that was really surprisingly good in a book that contains phrases like her breast tensed or whatever. But like I said, I'm going to give myself the easy out card here, and I don't think that those words came from the head of Robin Cook. I think he asked one of his female friends or his wife, hey, what's up with this feminism thing?
He did call out, I don't disagree with you, he did admit in the course of his Q&A, I've really changed my mind about the prospect of women in medicine. I recommend the following article. And it really seems, if you take that seriously, more like the clumsy efforts of a recent #ally.
I could see that, yeah, for sure. And I mean,
than anything else, but
and putting it in a character's mouth as a fucking piece of dialogue is pretty fucking hilarious, unless they're like testifying to Congress or whatever. But
it's definitely kind of the Daily Show, I'll see you at camera 3.
Yeah.
Kind of maneuver.
Totally, but
straight to the camera.
He's trying, right?
Yeah, he's trying.
And in a book like this, from an era like this, I feel like that's more than I expected to get, at least.
I mean, this is about as feminist as the average episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, it's at its heart, it's a very frivolous book. And it's a book that, as mentioned earlier, has some real problems with gender and biological sex and a lot of political problems in general. But that one piece did just jump out to me as something kind of prescient that I was like, huh. It made me sit back and take notice and go, hey, this isn't all bad. Mm-hmm. But you're definitely right, where it feels like a screed like that a man would write in a New York Times op-ed or something like that to show how woke he is. So, yeah, I think it goes both ways. But when you're reading a book like this, you're stretching for high points. What can you do?
Yeah, any port in a storm.
Exactly. So that was my final high point.
Excellent. Let's take a little break and come back and play some medical games.
Oh, God, no, please. Do you want to get rocked?
Oh, no.
Sorry, we were off air trying to think of some way to link Def Leppard into Robin Cook, and I couldn't make it happen. Folks at home, if you could figure out a way to link the novel Coma to Def Leppard, please write in. That is one of those ats that I will not be upset about. But I did want to mention something before we went any further, because this really should have been one of my low points, and I feel like I made a huge error in omission.
Well, then let's get you back on the table. Let's open you up and let this spill out. Because obviously it's got to come out.
Oh, gross. So this is a book that I described. It disgusted me greatly because there was lots of explicit talk about surgery and things like that. But what I did not describe was the most disgusting part of this book, which is visited not once but 2 or 3 times, where characters eat tuna fish sandwiches with a glass of milk. Fucking Christ! That is revolting. It's like she ate her tuna fish sandwich and milk quickly. The fuck? Ugh.
What, dude?
Just drink water.
Were you not ever fucking 10?
I certainly did not drink milk with tuna fish sandwiches. That is disgusting.
Did you, like most adult mammals, lose some of your ability to process raw dairy as you aged out of adolescence and into adulthood? Whatever, weirdo.
Just a tuna fish sandwich and milk? Like, just thinking about that together, but like, what? Anyway, sorry. That was a low point I didn't get to.
Whereas for me, I'm all like, nom, 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 nom. No, I don't eat fish, but, and I don't drink milk. Although I will occasionally, when engaged in kind of endurance pursuits that have really drained me. Pro tip, a little jar of chocolate milk is better than Gatorade for a lot of things. Gets you a little protein you need if you're not a vegan, and a lot of sugar, and really sets you straight for the next hour or so of exertion.
I thought the Gatorade thing was all about the salt and the electrolytes, though.
Yeah, but, it doesn't actually replace all of the things you need. And the great thing about salt and electrolytes is electrolytes just means sugar, I think. And salt just means salt.
I think electrolytes are salt.
And believe you me, chocolate milk, Plenty of fucking salt.
But I will tell you one thing about chocolate milk. Not developed at the University of Florida. Go Gators. All right, anyway, so...
Two things developed at the University of Florida. Cocaine habits and Gatorade.
Some pretty good punk bands, too, but yeah. All right, so this is the part of the show where we take pieces of this book and we read them to you in a dramatical fashion. So get ready for the most, let's say, highly touted segment in podcasting history.
The most incisive
Ooh.
segment in podcasting history. We're going to step up to the mic and operate without anesthesia.
That's it. That's the one. Dramatic readings. Here's a song.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
Let's get right.
The men in white coats, they're going to come seize you.
Nice.
That's the worst rhyme of all time. My orange rhyming dictionary will be confiscated before sundown.
Is that a real thing or just a Jets to Brazil album?
It's the name of a Jets to Brazil album, but if you think about it, it's
nothing rhymes with
ambiguous,
orange, which is not true.
So it would be empty, or maybe it's just a rhyming dictionary
That's colored
whose
orange.
cover is colored orange.
This is just a trick to get me to pronounce orange in the horribly
Orange.
strange way I do, so people will write in and be like, dumb southerner.
Lots of things rhyme with orange.
I mean, lots of things rhyme with orange if you try hard enough. Door hinge, for example.
That was my dad's favorite for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I can think of a few others, but, we don't want to be here all day. Dramatic readings. Do you got one?
Somebody really sadly scrolling through youporn.com would possibly issue a porn whinge.
I was just going to say, I don't like it when it's too hot or it's too cold when I'm eating my porridge. So, yeah.
If you're trying to raise up a big sack using a pulley of attached to a net of a specific indigenous to North America or the Americas in general grain, you might be using a corn hinge.
You might to put it in storage. I mean, the secret to making
I'm
anything...
bad at rhyming.
The secret to making anything rhyme is to give up on the idea of the perfect rhyme, right? Slant rhyme works just fine. And if you're willing to slant, anything rhymes with orange.
Hell yeah. And that's been one to grow on.
I'm going to write a little zine called How to Write Rap. And step one is going to be like, fuck everything you've ever learned about rhyming. You don't need to pay attention. Make your own rhymes. It's fun.
Are you sure you don't want to call it How to Rap Good Style?
That's true. I mean, Black Thought, for instance, one of my favorite things that he does was he will mispronounce words on purpose to keep a rhyme going, and he's fucking Black Thought. He says something like about a crooked eye, and then he says to amplify my ability, and it's like, dude, that's fucking awesome.
Honestly, though, you kind of have to be Black Thought to get away with that, because if you're just like me at an open mic night, that shit'll get you an apple thrown square at your cranium.
I don't know. He says something about like to let the words amplify my ability. I'm crooked like the eye on a toxic malt liquor.
Right. I'm not saying that
The bomb
he shouldn't do
the
it.
Dom Perignon sham sipper.
I'm saying if I was standing up there saying, fellows, I would like to amplify my ability.
I think you'd
It would
probably
go poorly.
I think you probably might still get some. Oh, I'm just saying.
I think it would go poorly.
Poor lie. Yeah, it's true. It could go parley.
Wow. So you wouldn't believe it, as funny as we undoubtedly are. But
can I just-
sometimes we also like to get dramatical.
This has nothing to do with anything, but I want to say it out loud because nobody ever listens to casual anymore, and it just what we just did reminded me of this amazing fucking casual song called Styles, where he breaks down the styles of rap, and he starts out with one syllable at a time in the first verse, and then by the last verse he's doing like 6-syllable combined rhymes that includes something like, you say you're hot, name a city or group rocks, your crew ain't been large since the video jukebox and shit like that. It's pretty impressive. We ride Harleys to gangster parties and smoke Bob Marleys with Yanks and Yardies. I don't know, dude. I love rap. Anyway, let's get back to dramatic readings.
Well, I don't even know what any of these words mean. All right, would you like to go first?
I guess I will go first.
Just take him to the fucking morgue, Jay.
Annie up. Yep, that fool. This right here is some serious, since, we're kind of on that tip already. This is some serious law-breaking fucking espionage action. And this is Susan exploring the facility that turns out to be the storage space, rhymes with door hinge, where they're keeping a bunch of bodies to harvest their organs. Because if you want big money, you kidnap that fool. So starting here... Letting the door close without a sound, Susan stood in the doorway for a few deep breaths. She felt slightly nauseated, but it passed. She realized that she had very little time. The elevator. Susan's pause in the doorway had been perfect timing. The TV scanner behind the one-way mirror finished its 5-second scan as Susan stepped back into the corridor. It would resume its scan in 10 seconds. She hurried back into the main ward and reached the doorway to the computer room. Hesitantly, she tried it. It, too, was unlocked. She opened the door about 10 inches and looked into the room. To her relief, it seemed unoccupied. As she pushed the door further, she could see a fantasy of computer consoles, input-output equipment, and tape storage systems. A movement in the far corner near to the ceiling caught Susan's eye. She recognized it immediately. It was a TV monitor camera. As its unhurried pan brought its lens towards Susan, she ducked back and closed the door. When she guessed that the camera had panned past, she whipped open the door and began to run the length of the room to the elevator. But her timing was off. She would be spotted by the TV camera on its return sweep. Susan dived behind a computer console, only halfway to her destination. She had to work her way down the rest of the room from console to console, trying to avoid the roving eye of the camera. Making a dash for the elevator, she pressed the button frantically. Susan could hear the machinery start up inside the shaft. The elevator was on another floor. The TV camera reached the end of its arc and started back. Susan pressed the elevator button several times in succession. The sound of the elevator machinery stopped. The doors quivered and then began to open. Susan glanced up at the TV camera before rolling around the edge of the elevator door, groping for the close button. The door closed, but Susan had no idea if she had been observed or not. The elevator was cavernous and uncorrespondingly slow. There were only 3 buttons. She pushed the button for floor 2 and felt the machine begin to ascend. The floor plan for the second floor showed that the ORs were at the extreme opposite end of the building from the elevators. A long hall stretched from the elevator back to the OR area. Both the 8th and 9th doors to her right led into the OR complex. When the elevator stopped and the doors opened, Susan stayed inside with her finger poised over the door close button. No one in sight. The corridor was similar to those of the first floor, except the doors were more deeply recessed. The ceilings carried tracks for the trolleys. As the elevator doors began to close, Susan plunged down the corridor, mentally checking off the number of doorways she had passed. Suddenly, in the distance, Susan saw a man driving a miniature forklift.
What?
Wait. So, by the way, you have just listened to someone describe playing Metal Gear Solid?
For like an interminable hour, which is, to my way of thinking, literally any time someone mentions anything related to Metal Gear.
Yeah, or I was going to say a really boring version of the opening scene to The Matrix.
Which, to my way of thinking, is... No, anyway. Wow.
The cube across from you is empty. Go in there.
Cool. It's just like what I fantasize about at my job is moving from one cubicle to a nearby cubicle.
Now, when they walk by, you're going to run out. You're going to go straight for the helicopter. But avoid the man with the miniature forklift. I just love miniature forklift is not the best way to end a suspense-filled sentence.
Oh, come on, dude. I was in miniature forklift. We were suburban Denver's 8th best math rock band.
Dude, we scared the crap out of that crowd when they accidentally had us open for Rainer Maria.
We were so sick. This is a little bit weird. It's a little bit, if I can steal a Jayism, uncomfortable. But my scene also heavily involves an
miniature
elevator.
Forklifts?
No, I
Damn
wish.
it.
So I hope you're ready to go down.
I can't remember how it starts. Loving an elevator.
Living it up while I'm going down.
Oh, that's it. 3rd floor, lingerie, or something sexy. Going down. And then the song starts.
Ladies' boobies, I believe is how the song actually begins.
I don't know. Who cares?
You know, Jay, there's something wrong in the world today.
It's mostly me. I'm sorry.
And I don't know what it is. Anyway, no Aerosmith.
We're living on the edge.
No Aerosmith is actually funnier than no, we have a social conscience, really, we promise, Aerosmith. Anywho, okay, so here's my dramatic reading. Set phasers to you're inside an elevator.
There's a lot of elevators in this book, to be fair, by the way. I was going to say that earlier.
Bellows looked up at the floor indicator above the door. He had to cock his head way back, as he was almost directly under it. He knew that he had to hustle in order to be on time for his case, a hemorrhoid operation on a 62-year-old man. It wasn't his idea of a fascinating case, but he loved to operate.
And he loved butts.
Once he got going and felt the strange sense of responsibility which the knife afforded, he didn't really care where he was working, stomach or hand, mouth or asshole. Bellows thought about seeing Susan that night, and he felt a sense of pleasurable anticipation.
Grossest segue ever!
I did not edit that segue. Everything would be fresh and unspoiled. So fresh and so clean. Their conversation could range over any one of 1,000 topics. And physically, Bellows had no idea what to expect. In fact, he wondered how he would be able to bridge the colleague-like rapport they had already established. Within himself, he sensed a very positive physical reaction towards Susan, but it began to trouble him. In a lot of ways, sex meant aggression to Bellows, and he didn't feel any aggression towards Susan. Not yet. A smile crept over his face as he imagined himself kissing Susan impulsively. It made him remember those awkward adolescent moments in his early youth, when he would continue some banal conversation with his pimpled date right up to her doorstop. Then, without warning, he would kiss the girl hard and sloppy. Then he'd step back to see what happened, hoping for acceptance, but fearing rejection. It had never ceased to amaze him when he found acceptance, because in many ways, he didn't know why he was kissing the girl in the first place. The concept of seeing Susan socially reminded Bellows of those early years of dating because he felt an inner urge for physical contact, yet did not expect it. Susan was obviously palpable and luscious, yet...
Wait. Can we add this to the file of words that don't mean what the author thinks they mean?
Susan was obviously palpable and luscious. Yes, she could be palped, my man.
Yeah.
Palping could happen to her.
Whoa. At any second, the palping could begin.
Let me palpitate you, he said sensually, seducing the shit out of her. Yet, Susan was obviously palpable and luscious, yet she was going to be a doctor, as he was. Hence, she would have little appreciation for the trump card Bellows always felt in a social situation. Most everybody was impressed when he said he was a doctor, a surgeon. It didn't matter that Bellows himself knew that being a doctor did not assure any special attributes contrary to popular mythology. In fact, if he used many of the attending surgeons at the memorial as examples, the effect of admitting such an association should have been a handicap. But what really bothered Bellows was the knowledge that a penis would hold little fascination for Susan. In all probability, she had dissected one. Bellows did not reduce his own sexual urges and fantasies to anatomical and physiological realities. But what about Susan? She looked so normal, with her smile, her soft skin, the hint of her breast gently rising with her breathing. But she had studied the parasympathetic reflexes and the endocrine alterations that make sex possible, even enjoyable. Maybe she had studied too much of the wrong thing. Maybe even if the occasion was auspicious, Bellows would find his penis limp, impotent. The thought made Bellows doubtful about seeing Susan. After all, Once away from the hospital, Bellows wanted to escape, and mindless sex was a superb method. With Susan, if it happened at all, it wasn't going to be mindless. It couldn't be. Finally, there was the sticky question about the wisdom of dating a student currently under his supervision on the surgery rotation. Bellows was undoubtedly going to be called upon to evaluate Susan's performance as a student. Dating her represented a ridiculous conflict of interest. The elevator door opened on the OR floor, and Bellows quickly crossed to the main OR desk. The clerk was preparing the OR schedule of the following day. "What room is my case in?" "It's a Mr. Barron. A hemorrhoid."
You know, I like how he finally gets to the fact that it's a horrible breach of ethics after spending like 2 pages worried that he's not going to be able to get hard or that she won't be impressed by his cock.
It's called priorities, my friend.
It's a good way to think about things, for sure. I have to say, there's a pavement.
Well, it's not sexual harassment if you can't spring a chub, my man.
There's a pavement
Note,
song.
I am not a lawyer.
There's a pavement song. I think it's "We Dance." It begins with the lyrics, "There is no castration fear." And I've never fully understood what they were talking about until you just read this passage. But that is castration fear in toto.
I mean, yeah, because you give away all your power if you use the power of being somebody's boss to force them to have sex with you, but then...
Can't get it up.
Exactly.
Jesus, this book...
70s!
Yep.
You know, my all-time hero, Mr. Michael Watt, once wrote a song called Against the 70s.
That's a good song title. It's also a good song.
The chorus of which ran, "Kids of today should defend themselves against the 70s.
I totally forgot about that song. It's a great song.
It's a really good song, and I've always kind of wondered if he weren't doubling down on the joke and undercutting it at the same time, because Mike Watt is nothing if not a clever man.
He's a very clever man.
By having Eddie Vedder, the 70s-ist lead singer of the 90s, sing that song.
That's why I remember it. It's from Ball Hog or Tugboat, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the one that had all the guest performers on it.
Yeah, and it's like Eddie gets it, and he puts his butt into it.
It's a really fucking good song.
And
I was trying to remember. I'm like, why does the vocal in my head not sound like Mike Watt? And it's because it's Eddie Vedder at his most emotive.
Yeah, and like I said, he gets what he's singing, and he gets why he's the one singing it. And like, it basically defanged several years of Eddie Vedder, anger I had at that point, because I was like, oh shit, no, he is on the side of the Angels. All right, well, I can't make fun of you that much more, can I?
Yeah, I mean, they covered Rockin' in the Free World, but they also understood what they were doing.
I
feel like
Keep on Rockin' in the Free World is actually a hilarious song.
I mean, yeah, but it's also very 70s. Is it not?
No.
60s?
No, 89.
Wow.
I believe. Somewhere in
wow. Okay, I thought it was way older than that. But, I mean...
That's because Neil Young will fool you.
Well, I also said they, but now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure Eddie Vedder was the only self-aware member of that band. It definitely wasn't the bass player with the silly hats. Now we're going to get more angry email about Pearl Jam. I'm sorry.
I mean, I spent a large chunk of today wearing a silly hat, largely because I didn't feel like brushing my hair till it was dry.
I mean, that's how I keep the top of my hair straight, because otherwise my hair looks like Kenny Loggins unless I wear a hat when I let it dry. So, little peek behind the curtain there.
Yeah.
You want to play another game?
Let's play another game.
Let's do What Is Your Fave?
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
Okay, so here we go. In the back of this book is a list of other books written by Robin Cook. And I'm going to ask you to name your favorite, but I'm not going to ask you to name your favorite as a book title.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to name your favorite Robin Cook novel as the title to an album by a straight edge hardcore band.
Oh, okay. So this is like my favorite, I don't know, Judge album title.
Yeah, Judge,
right?
Strife, Outspoken. One of those bands that wrote their logo in like the collegiate font and put X's around it. And had like a black and white photo of a crowd going off on the front of their album.
As a buddy of mine joked to me in like 1990, before I had in fact ever heard any straight edge bands, all straight edge bands have names that sound like household cleaners.
It's a good point.
It's a really good point.
One of my favorite things, too, is that the vocalist of Judge, I forget his real name, it's Mike something, but he referred to himself as Mike Judge the entire time the band was together. And that only aged up until a particular point where you then start imagining, like, Boom Hour or Beavis fronting a hardcore band. Which, in my mind now, I really want to hear a Judge song re-recorded with, like, the Butthead voice. Like, there's only one truth. Yeah. Only one truth, Butthead. Yeah. Okay.
Wow, that's really good, actually.
Are you threatening me? I'll stop. Sorry.
I used to have a riff about the decline of American society from Bill and Ted to Beavis and Butthead. And then at the time, I thought the absolute, like, nadir, the absolute toilet was South Park.
Yeah.
God, I miss being the guy who thought it couldn't get worse.
Yep.
Then gotta hear both sides, and the libertarians are probably right.
Yeah, then Family Guy came around to be like, actually, it turns out it's the right-wing assholes are the cool ones.
Well, and then it was, actual fascists running our government and locking people in cages. So, anywho.
But Beavis and Butthead Do America, cinema classic, the best movie of 1996 as far as I'm concerned, and I say this only half jokingly. I really want Criterion to put out a copy of that solely so that I can listen to the commentary, because I've read the screenplay of it. It's fucking amazing how, like, plugged into what he was doing Mike Judge was when he wrote that screenplay. Like, the Red Hot Chili Peppers make a cameo in that.
So what you're saying is that writer of overrated Idiocracy and somehow still underrated Office Space,
yeah.
Mike Judge was plugged into the zeitgeist in the mid to late 90s. I don't know, Jay. I think you need to show your work, buddy.
Okay, I will, because what's amazing is...
that was a joke.
I know, but this isn't, and it's still amazing. There's a scene where they go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's introduced via montage of, they show a drawing of a Las Vegas cover band performing the Red Hot Chili Peppers doing a cover of the Ohio Players' Love Roller Coaster. And the way that
they actually did.
Yeah. But the way that this band is drawn is like the goofiest looking. Like, they're like got bad mustaches and glasses and all this kind of stuff. In the screenplay, it says, this should be performed by a very popular band like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's like, however, the band performing should look nothing like them for comedy value. And I've been laughing at that joke for fucking like 20 years. That was exactly what he was going for. Like, I don't know. I love that kind of shit.
Nice.
But anyway, that was a long walk. We're back to straight edge bands. So which of these Robin Cook novel titles is the best title for a straight edge album? Say Revelation Records, Equal Vision Records, one of those labels.
Okay. So we're basically high school students yelling at other high school students.
Yeah, we'll say the band's name is Coma with X's around it. No, that's too... Comas have to do with drugs.
No, it would have to be like Awaken.
Awaken, there you go, perfect.
Already a straight edge
I'm
band.
sure there is. Awaken with X's around it. So here are your choices. Cell, Nano, Death Benefit, Cure, Intervention, Foreign Body, Critical, Crisis, Marker, Seizure, Shock, Abduction, Vector, Toxin, Chromosome 6, Invasion, Contagion, Fatal Cure, Acceptable Risk, Terminal, Blindsight, Vital Signs, which is a Rush album, Mutation, Mortal Fear, Outbreak, Mind Bend, God Player, Fever, Brain, Sphinx, or Year of the Intern.
My neck, my back. So I really think I would have to go slightly different. I would have to like combine two or three. I think very early it was something like Shock Awaken.
Shock Abduction.
Maybe earlier than that. Can I get like the first 5 or 6? I was looking
Cell, Nano.
Hang on. I've got my copy now. Okay. So, first album, Cure Intervention.
Ooh, that's good.
Second, Critical Crisis.
Ooh, Critical Crisis. There you go, right there.
And then they're done.
No, for me, it's totally Acceptable Risk.
Ooh, okay.
Awaken, Acceptable Risk. And then
Yeah.
on the front, there's a bunch of dudes going off. And then on the back, there's a bunch of songs about, like, how you stabbed me in the back. I thought we were brothers.
Yeah.
Chugga, chugga, chugga. I'll never smoke weed. Now we're going to have a reunion tour. We're all in our 40s. We drink beer. And we have to apologize before every song. One of my favorite videos ever on YouTube, the horrible site, is of hardcore straight edge band Chain of Strength. Most famous for a song, I think it was called just True Till Death.
Oh, no, it was Never Break the Chain.
Now, I'm pretty sure it was True Till Death was the name of the song. And the chorus of the song is, has the edge gone dull? Has the edge gone dull? And they, True Till Death. They did a reunion tour about 10 years ago, and all of them drink now. And the singer introduces the song, and he's like, look, okay, our lifestyles have changed and stuff, but when we recorded this, it really meant a lot to us. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's just the saddest thing.
It's weird because they rewrote it all, and it was like...
Has the chorus gone flat?
Oh, Jesus, that's not even what I was going to say, but like, yeah, it's like I was reaching for something about the edge of the knife needs to be dull if you're going to do a knife hit. It's like, we do math.
Yeah, I was thinking has the chorus gone flat? Or maybe you could make it about an edger, like doing lawn work.
Well, while you've got that image in your heads, let's play a game, because what's more fun than that, right?
Thinking about how hilarious straight edge hardcore was in retrospect.
And thinking about how people change, and, you know, a lot of the things that were important to them at one time cease being important to them. Hopefully they get wiser and gentler and know how to target their passions better. But, you know, sometimes we all just settle for shitty mediocrity. And
I knew a lot of really cool straight edge kids. I also know a lot of straight edge kids that were into the scene because it essentially, in a lot of ways, was proto-fascism. And a buddy of mine who was also involved in the same scene as mine now, a couple days ago on Facebook posted and was like, think about how many of our friends would be Proud Boys now if we were that age. And it really fucking resonated with me because it just made me think of like all of these young white guys with nothing to be angry about.
Right.
Getting angry about the concept that someone old enough to drink beer might drink beer.
Dipshits in polo's gonna dip shit in polo.
Yeah, so I don't know. That really kind of woke me up. It made me realize,
Yeah.
like, hey, that whole youth crew movement, maybe not as positive as you think, but still fucking love Gorilla Biscuits. Anyway,
There you go.
Let's move on to another game.
So let's not take 1 second more on that topic and move on to another game. So we've kind of hinted that we think that this book may have sown the seeds, as I believe Fugazi sang, sowing the seeds of
Yeah, that was
love.
definitely Fugazi. It was on my favorite album of theirs.
In On the Thrill Maker?
No, I was trying to think of some pop record, but I just can't
Okay.
think of anything off the top of my head.
I believe that this book was big enough that some people might have liked it who we've actually heard of. And that leads me to want to play a game called Most Famous Fan.
The rich and the famous, but they read books too. The rich and the famous, but they're only a little better than you.
Hey, that was a cool song by Fugazi, who pronounced their name wrong and convinced a generation of kids like myself to hear the word Fugazi in movies and have this weird reaction where they're like, they're mispronouncing the name again. Even though, yeah, it's a Fugazi.
Right.
You can go ahead and sell it if you want to be a Dumbo.
I have no idea what he's saying either, people.
Donnie Brasco, man.
Never saw it.
Okay. It's a Fugazi. It's fake.
There you go. Anyway, so Most Famous Fan. This does what it says on the tin. We've already talked a little bit about some of the influences it might have had. As an influential work, who do you see ripping off or appropriating or doing the most with the Robin Cook steez, if you will? And I hope, Jay, that you will.
I will, and I'm actually going to call back to something we mentioned earlier, and I'm also probably going to horribly mispronounce names, so I'm going to try my best. But I would say that the biggest fan of this book that anyone knows of is Hideo Kojima, the man behind the Metal Gear video game series.
Well, he's not famous.
Oh, trust me. To people who listen to this show, they'll know who he is. I mean, he's one of the first video game auteurs by any standard, and he was obsessed with, the idea of experimental medical stuff came into his games a lot.
Really?
The idea of experimenting on human beings to turn them into super soldiers and weapons.
Whoa.
Also, just, as you mentioned earlier, those games are filled with interminable stealth scenes where you have to sneak around and hide from cameras and avoid people's cones of vision.
God. Do they sneak around?
And they do sneak around above drop ceilings.
In drop ceilings?
Yeah.
Well, fuck, I might have to buy some video games.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I think, I'm pretty sure it's Kojima, but I probably also sound like a horrible, like one of those American dudes trying to say Japanese right, so I don't know, it might be Kojima. Either way,
fucking gaijin.
It's one or the other, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, but Hideo of Metal Gear fame,
Fair.
I would say, is
All
the
right.
most famous fan.
So I was going to go with Michael Crichton, but then I foolishly spilled the Crichton beans earlier.
You don't want to spill those beans, man.
Oh,
They
man.
take forever to clean up. They get all over everything.
You don't know what's going to happen either. They might take some pointlessly contrarian bean-related position.
It's true. They could hatch into some sort of killer creature. You never know. They could travel through time.
We're actually a lagoon. So I'm just going to kind of reflect on what my experience of this book was like, which was largely about horned-up young people in a hospital setting. And I'm going to say that the most famous fan of this is probably, what's his dipshit name? The guy from Scrubs.
Zach Braff.
Yeah.
I knew you were going there.
And like, full disclosure, if you like Scrubs, I've got no like leg to stand on. I had a moment where I literally could not get enough Scrubs into my life. Comedy Central, I think it was playing like these giant mini-thons of like 5 or 6 episodes of Scrubs in a block at a time that I was mostly just working in bars. And I would tell people to shut the fuck up, and I would turn the jukebox off so I could watch said blocks while at work.
I agree with you there. I enjoy the show. However, if you think Zach Braff is the good part of Scrubs, I don't know if that's a defensible position.
I'm not interested in holding a defensible position vis-a-vis to having liked Scrubs. I'm okay with being a guy who liked Scrubs at one point and just leaving it there.
I mean, and
I think he's just as a famous guy, like 2 guys are walking down the street in Brentwood, California. Who gets mobbed? Zach Braff or Hideo Kojima?
Oh, Zach Braff, for
Zach
sure.
Braff. So he's more famous.
No, wait.
Therefore,
It
therefore,
depends.
I win this game.
No, you don't. It depends.
No, I win this game.
No.
And therefore,
Stop.
the episode.
Stop.
Yay, me.
Is Comic-Con happening right now?
In Brentwood? No, because Comic-Con, what most people call Comic-Con, is actually San Diego.
God
Comic-Con.
damn it, I thought it was in LA. You win.
I win the episode. I win the episode.
You do. But if Comic-Con was in town, it would be Hideo getting mobbed for sure. And it would be people like, will you sign my exosuit?
No, actually, because Suda 51 would be across the street, and all the discerning connoisseurs.
The people who like bad video games based
be
on good
chasing
ideas.
him.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Swery 59 would just be like crying in the corner going, Twin Peaks.
Wow.
I like obscure Japanese video games, people at home. I don't know if you knew that.
Have we digressed enough? Is, I think, the only question that I have for you, Jay.
Yeah. I think we have. I think it's time, actually.
Do we have any more games?
Nah, let's take a break.
All right.
I gotta go play some fucking Koji, but I gotta go play some Metal Gear. We'll be back. All right, we're back. We're done talking about Ramen Cook's Coma. And for the folks at home,
Hope we didn't put you to sleep.
here's something I'd like to tell to you. If there's something you'd like to try, A recommendation from Collision or I. Ask me, I won't say no. How could I? Sorry, I can't limit myself to one bad Morrissey impression per episode. But this is the part where we talk about things that we enjoyed. So, Collision, would you like to start us off with a recommendation of a thing?
Yeah, I was looking for a recommendation, and then I found a recommendation, and heaven knows I'm miserable now. I am going to stay relentlessly and resolutely consistent. I'm going to recommend another very short book. Yes, another very short book of poetry. It is called The After Party, and it is by a Czech-American writer whose name I am tragically certain I'm going to butcher, but it will be in the show notes so you can read it and not have to suffer through my incompetence. But I believe it is Jana Prikryl. It is very imagistic. A lot of the poems are quite short and work like almost little riddles or little jokes or little dirty jokes. And I like them a very lot, even if I couldn't necessarily tell you what too many of them are about. Anyway, I found it in parts very moving and affecting and liked it a whole bunch. So that is my recommendation for this episode.
What's the title again?
It's called The After Party, which, as we all know, comes after the party.
That's very true. For me, I mean, since this has been an entire show about butchering bodies and butchering names, I am going to recommend it.
Way to put me on blast.
No, I mean, I just did it too with old Hideo back there, and I'm about to do it with the name of this, a Japanese video game I've been playing called Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I think I got that name pronounced right, but I probably didn't, but I tried my goddamn hardest. It's from Software. They're the people who made Dark Souls and Bloodborne. If you've read about it, you probably read people going, oh my god, it's really hard. You have to get good at this game, blah, 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 blah. But I'm going to tell you a secret about these games. They're not about getting good in the way that you normally get good at video games. I know this because I'm horrible at video games. What they're about is learning. And I love to learn.
Oh.
And these games...
Yet another difference between you and me.
These games, what they essentially do is teach you small aspects of them in bite-sized chunks that you will fail at a lot. And in this one, you're going to die a lot, but you will learn how to stop dying. You will get farther. It's beautiful. It has a really cool, mysterious story, and I'm enjoying it a great deal. I've been spending most of my free, non-reading time playing this game, which is probably not the best way to spend my free time, but what the hell can you do? It's good. I would check it out. There we go.
So, read Coma and play video games, says J.W. Friedman.
Exactly. Yeah. Read bad books and play games where you're a ninja. Did I mention you're a ninja? You're a ninja.
You did not mention that I'm a ninja. But now, I'm going to drop the bomb and run out in a cloud of smoke.
Where'd he go? No. Well, luckily, during the hasty escape, a mailbag has been left here. Which means...
In his wake, he left only
a sack. Ho, ho, ho. He laid his finger aside his nose and played the letter song. Here it is.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter M, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
And unfortunately, this sack contained but a simple letter. But possibly with the greatest, most attention-catching subject line of all time, set phasers to all caps, Buck Cherry.
Yeah!
And the letter reads as follows. Continue with phasers on all caps. OMG, their name is a spoonerism!
That's true.
And then in regular type, thanks for the Knights in Rodanth episode. In the middle of it right now. Slightly stoned from lack of sleep, and enjoying the digressions very much. Whoop whoop. And that comes from Suzanne, fake last name.
Was that one of the many episodes where I mentioned the fact that the Chuck Berry Buck Cherry thing is amazing?
I'm gonna guess yes, but
because I do that like every other episode.
that's only context clues lead me to believe that.
It is. It's the one good thing about that band.
You're crazy for saying that. B.
I'm a crazy bench.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a crazy binge who wants to support what we do, we thank you very much and we invite you to do so over at patreon.com/IDEOTV. Maybe pod. I can't remember.
There it is. It's IDEOTV pod after
Great.
the slash.
Okay, so Patreon is PATREON.
And when I say after the slash, what I mean is read some fan fiction about members of the Star Trek universe having sex, and then go to patreon.com.
Which, as near as I can tell, most of you have done, and I couldn't thank you more for it. What is Patreon, you ask? Patreon's a way you can support the show, give us an ongoing subscription type, NPR-like buy-in model. You get rewards at various levels, including at the $5 a month level, a bonus episode every single month.
Which the last one we did, I think, is one of the best ones we've ever done, so they just keep getting better.
And what was that about, Jay?
It was about the movie version of one of the first books ever reviewed on the podcast, The Dirt, about Motley Crue.
So we gave you the skinny on the dirt.
We did, and man, those boys, they needed to put on some weight.
And later we'll give you the dirt on the unskinny bop.
I wish. Is there a Poison book? We need to keep our eyes out for that. CeCe DeVille, that's a tragic life, man.
Look what the book dragged in.
I
anyway.
think he paints signs for a living now, like billboards.
Well, I hope he's very fulfilled.
No, he's not. He had anyway, it's sad. We won't get into it.
Bummer. Anyway, so to all those who help us out, thank you so much. If you'd like to get in touch with us, the best way is always to inbox us at I don't even own a television at gmail.com. We're also around on Facebook and Twitter at IDEOTVpod. And most happily, you can interact with other people who like the show who, without having to put up with us very much, on Facebook in the bespoke and private Facebook group just for you. Yes, you. Yeah, no, I'm talking to you. Don't look around. I'm talking to you, buddy. It's the I don't even own a fun time.
I don't own a fun time either, man. It's been a hell of a year.
It's been a rough couple of months for all of us. Try us on Facebook at the I don't even own a television fun time party pit, where it's just a rad ass place to hang out with like-minded folks who like wacky books, like us. Don't mostly talk about us, mostly talk about wacky ass books and crabs. It's awesome.
It's good. It's a good place to be. Now the question is,
what is the question?
Something we alluded to up front. Is it a rad ass place or is it a rad ass place? Because that hyphen makes a world of difference.
I believe it's a rad ass place.
Yeah, I think so too. There's not a lot of asses going on.
Not a lot of asses.
Yeah. And by that, we mean most of the people there are nice and friendly and not jerks.
Exactly.
Did you see how I fucking steered out of that nosedive?
Exactly. Well done. Like Robin Cook's Coma.
All right. So thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in a couple weeks with another episode. And until next time, please do not dissect the crab.
Ride the comatose crab.